My goal for today is to do a spoiler-free review of the Devil May Cry Netflix anime while also going a bit deep on its real-life mythical inspirations. The show's premise is rich with this sort of thing, so I'll only really need to discuss the first 2 episodes to explain the actual plot, most of which just re-establishes the well-known lore of the games that the show is based on. Now, I haven't played the Devil May Cry games myself, but after looking them up a bit online, it seems that the new series starts out very similar to them, which tend to focus on its main character Dante trying to drum up work at his demonic hunting detective agency called Devil May Cry. From a young age, Dante had been trained to fight demons and is especially eager to do so after they seemingly killed his mother and his twin brother when he was just a boy. We first see him fighting some low-level demons that have managed to make it to his world, but by the end of the episode, it's revealed that he has been purposely hired by the season's primary antagonist, a mysterious white rabbit meant to remind us of the one from Alice in Wonderland. Now, early on, the White Rabbit is seen using humans to break into the Vatican and steal a mystical sword, leading to the American government and army getting involved when they believe that this will be the beginning of Armageddon, the final wars that destroy the world. In order to set this in motion, the White Rabbit will not just need to get this mythic sword, but also a magic necklace that its owner had before splitting it in 2. This sword is explained to be the sword of the demon knight Sparta, and that's Sparta with a D, not with a T, as in the ancient Greek city-state. At the start of the show, Dante thinks he's just a normal human with superhuman abilities, and thinks that all demons are monsters who deserve to die because of how they killed his family. It's quickly revealed to Dante, however, that his father was actually the mythic demon Sparta, making him half human but also half demon, explaining his superpowers. Sparta was no ordinary demon either, but he was essentially the second in command of Hell back in the ancient times when the human realm and the demon realm were connected. The ruler of this Hell, Mundus, sought to enslave all of humanity, and Sparta, for whatever reason, decided to fight against this. Using the power of his sword and a magical amulet, Sparta was able to create a barrier between the 2 worlds that otherwise seemed to be naturally connected. The scientists working with the American government even believe that demons are just humans who branched off into this other realm at an early point in history, leading to evolution that was meant to help them survive in the hell-like environment. But ultimately, their DNA has the same origin as ours. For separating the worlds, Sparta was considered a great hero to the humans that had helped shape humanity. He would go on to eventually marry a human woman named Eva, who would give birth to their 2 kids, Dante and Virgil. While Sparta's sword would end up in the hands of the Vatican, his magic amulet would be split in 2, with one half given to each of his sons. By the time the show begins, the government is aware of the existence of demons, but does its best to keep it secret, as the rest of the world has forgotten about the demons and think the legend of Sparta to just be some old myth. The barrier between the worlds, however, has just enough weakness and holes for smaller, lower-level demons to pass through, giving them the opportunity to put the amulet and sword back together, to destroy the barrier between the worlds, and let the giant demons like Mundus himself come through. Dante thus becomes the target of the White Rabbit and his demons, as well as the US government and their special demon hunting team led by Mary, while trying to uncover the truth of his birth and his family necklace. It sets up a fun show that has a lot of great fight scenes, but as someone who hasn't played the games, I found myself shocked by how silly Dante acts.
Game over!
I did watch some of the cutscenes from the games, and he seems much more stoic in them while still being able to make jokes. The show, meanwhile, just seems to make jokes about him trying to be cool, and that just felt a bit different from what I was expecting. But if you've played the games, let me know in the comments if he's more like this than I think. Either way, it's a great first season, and you should check it out if you want to get the full story for yourself. But it did have some interesting lore right there in its premise, and of course, this wouldn't be Cartoon Universe if we didn't talk about its crazy real-life inspirations. Now, one thing the show mentions a lot is that the sealing of the portal between the worlds was done 2,000 years ago, with us currently living in the year 2025 in real life. We of course count these years based on the number that have passed since the estimated life of Jesus Christ. In Christianity, Jesus is a divine figure sent from heaven to protect humans from the devil, dying in his material form to prevent the souls of humans from going to hell by taking on the debt of our sins. This is obviously not an exact parallel, but it's easy to see how Sparta and his son Dante can be parallels to God and Jesus. The story of a demon cutting us off from hell so that we can live in peace. But the real-life mythology actually goes more deep than that when you consider the interesting demonization of this seemingly heroic figure within the show. It's interesting to note that Sparta's wife, and thus Dante's mother, was not named Mary, which was the name of Jesus' mother, but instead is named Eva, a close parallel to the biblical Eve. Mary is not just the name of the mother of Jesus, but also one of his close companions, Mary Magdalene, who some esoteric sources suggest was actually the lover and wife of Jesus. Regardless of their real relationship, the name of Eva or Eve and Mary in this order seems to be very intentional. Something I think the show, or rather the games, borrowed more so from Jewish Kabbalah and Christian Gnosticism. In Judaism, the gods of other religions are reinterpreted as fallen angels that mislead the world, lying to the nations that they are the one true God. This is why we have passages in the Bible, such as those found in Psalm 82, where God is said to stand among the other gods, judging them for their corruption of humanity. With that in mind, when Jesus became a religious figure that took over the world, he was seen in much of the same way, being an angel claiming to be the Son of God and the true heir to the earth, but one who supposedly does so to mislead humanity for his own goals. In the 13th century Zohar, the leader of these fallen angels is known variously as Satan or Samael, and was said to ride upon the serpent to enter the Garden of Eden and trick Eve into eating the fruit of forbidden knowledge. This involves the serpent seducing Eve and her giving birth to her first son, Cain. Now, in the actual Bible, Cain is said to be the son of Adam and Eve, but he carries on the legacy of the serpent by perpetuating sin, becoming the first murderer in the world when he kills his younger brother Abel. Already, you can see how this is a similar story to that of Sparta marrying Eva, an angel, or rather a demon, who came to the earthly realm to have a human wife, passing on his demonic powers to his children. What makes this even more interesting, however, is that in Jewish Kabbalah, there is a concept of gematria, where you can find hidden messages in Hebrew writings by converting each letter to a number, adding up the sum of each word, and switching it out with a word of the same value. The most bizarre example of this is Nahash, meaning serpent in the Bible, which happens to have an added value of 358. This is the same as the Hebrew word Messiah, meaning anointed one, which in Judaism was meant to refer to their eventual king, but who Christians claim to be Jesus Christ. Later Jewish texts like the Sefer Zerubbabel explicitly paint Satan as the father of Jesus by depicting Satan mating with a statue of the Virgin Mary to create a demonic offspring representing Jesus. It is this figure who is meant to usher in the wars that will lead to the great end-time battles described in our different prophecies, something we can see playing out with Dante. What's interesting is that these ideas are even reflected in Christian Gnosticism, where the Old Testament God is reimagined as an evil entity that rules the world, with Jesus being a reincarnating figure trying to rescue humanity. In these texts, the serpent is reinterpreted as a hero in the first attempt at Jesus himself to come down into the material world to rescue humans trapped there, before later reincarnating again as Jesus Christ. With that in mind, Sparta is more of a precursor to the Jesus figure, an early iteration like the serpent who just exists to set up the coming of the later Messiah, his son Dante. Gnosticism grew not just out of Christianity, but the earlier religion of the Greeks and the Hellenistic world that had adopted it. Thus, this reinterpretation of the Old Testament God as a more villainous figure actually aligned him more so with the ideas of Zeus. Like in many ancient mythologies, the chief god of the Greek pantheon wasn't the ultimate good, but rather Zeus was a god who mostly saw humans as a way to farm food for the other divine beings to eat, similar to the role Adam and Eve have under the Old Testament God in the Garden of Eden, and what humans would have done under the rule of Mundus in Devil May Cry. Zeus even welcomed the death of humans with a great flood, only for the ancestor god of the Greeks, Prometheus, to warn his son that he can escape on a boat. In the Greek mythology, Prometheus was their serpent, a giver of forbidden knowledge who wanted humans to flourish instead of just work, someone who was punished for this, but who welcomed his punishment, knowing that one day, humans would live in a greater world because of it. There's a lot more we could dive into for this video by getting more into the plot of the season, but I know a lot of people like a spoiler-free review that manages to give them the idea of what depth to expect and what to look out for. So if you haven't seen the show yet, I hope this video helped convince you, and if you have seen the show, I hope this gave you a little bit more to think about with it. Perhaps I'll dive more into these stories when talking about the finale when we finally get a season 2 and see where these ideas get to go. But for now, if you want more mythological breakdowns of cartoons, check out my recent video on common side effects. It's an Adult Swim show about magic mushrooms and hallucinations, but the mushrooms can also heal people and seem to be leading people through psychic visions. So go check that out, or our recent video breaking down the real-life mythology of Gravity Falls. See you guys next time.
It is I, Dr. Cyborg, and I have come to steal the treasure you care about most!
Not the magic crystal!
No! Racer, help me! Good luck trying to get your little boyfriend back! No! Not my boyfriend!
Boyfriend?
Wait, what did I say?